Regional diplomats here are saying that they think that a strike could happen. They're saying it doesn't have to happen. But what they're saying they believe must happen is that there must be an action against these alleged chemical attacks. They believe, they say, that Bashar al-Assad's regime should be held responsible. And they say that if there isn't a reaction against these attacks, then the Geneva peace talks that are hoped to take place between Bashar al-Assad's regime and the rebels, that if these talks take place without there being some kind of reaction, then they will be unsuccessful. In the words of this diplomat, that they would be dead or stillborn. Why do they make this analysis that the Geneva peace talks would be dead if there isn't an action? The reason is very simple. They say that the peace talks can only succeed if both sides believe they cannot win on the battlefield. And right now the assessment is that Bashar al-Assad believes he can win on the battlefield, and that essentially if he does go unpunished, if you will, for these chemical weapons attacks, therefore he'll feel emboldened to do it again, and even more emboldened that he can win more on the battlefield.
I want to ask you something about logistics, really. You've covered your fair share of wars. I've been to a few myself. And is it really possible that, for example, the U.S. is saying absolutely no boots on the ground, when usually you have to have someone at least going in and spotting, going in and seeing on-the-ground realities, even if they're able to go in and out very quietly, covertly? Is it possible that the U.S. hasn't already sent in or have people inside of the country really staking out these targets so that they make sure that if they're doing something like precision strikes, that they are actually precise?
Yeah, the Jordanian government here has said very clearly that they won't support military actions from their territory, even that they patrol the borders and try and stop weapons smuggling across the border to support the rebels. However, it's an open secret, if you will, that Saudi Arabia at least is getting weapons through Jordan to the rebels inside Syria. Boots on the ground. We know that the U.S. military is training Jordanian special forces, U.S. special forces training them, and that certainly I'm hearing from sources that rebels are indeed being trained here. This is something that the Jordanian government says isn't happening, but sources here are saying those rebels are being trained, and from what we understand, it's quite specific training for urban conflict. We're also hearing from sources the strong possibility that U.S. special forces and Jordanian special forces have been trained in dealing with chemical weapons, that they are indeed ready potentially to go across the border into Syria. So that potential to have boots on the ground really does exist, we're told, in a very real way. So it could happen. Diplomatically, politically, though, the position of the Jordanian government is it wouldn't happen from here. But as we know, if you really want to know how effective an airstrike is, if you really want to know where those weapons are, or the artillery that's being used to fire the weapons, or the troop headquarters that are commanding those weapons that you want to target, you are going to need eyes and ears on the ground. Does it have to be U.S. Special Forces? No. Jordanians very likely have assets, intelligence-type assets, inside Syria. These two countries neighbor each other, so potentially you can have friendly eyes and ears on the ground that way as well, Sarah.